Okay, so lately what's been on my mind in recent conversations with other people who do immigration work, various forms of advocacy work, whether they do immigration, they organize on immigration issues, or they do advocacy or accompaniment or therapy for immigrant clients, whatever it is. Anyone basically who's working in immigration in this climate, everyone knows the feeling of like a constant heavy weight, and it feels like it keeps getting heavier every year, and it doesn't let up. So they've actually put a name on that. The APA, the American Psychological Association, they put a name on it about a year ago in an article in October 2019, and the article is titled, I'll put the link in the description here too, Compassion Fatigue in the Migration Crisis. And it's a very unique article. I For people who know what the article is referring to, they'll be very happy to finally see someone naming what they're experiencing, because sometimes it will feel like you know what you're feeling is something unique and very difficult, but when you try to describe it to people who don't have the same experience, they'll equivocate it with other forms of compassion fatigue. And what people who are doing the immigration work these days are trying to say is that it's like, look, a lot of us have done work like this for a long time before the recent years. We already have been through many cycles. Things like compassion fatigue and setting boundaries, we already know that. We already know all of that. That's basic lessons we learned already through lots of hard life experience doing the work of advocacy or the works of mercy or social justice work or whatever it is people are doing. We've all learned those lessons already if we're already doing the work now, most of us. Some people who are entering now, just who are completely new to all of that, are just starting now. Okay, maybe they're new to it, but a lot of people really have a lot of experience doing all sorts of work in this realm. But this, the unique challenges of immigration work in the past some years here are really different. Even I know people, too many people I know, immigration lawyers who've had long careers, 10 years, 20 years, sometimes more, people who've been doing this stuff for a long time, all universally tell me, they all tell me across the board, this is the hardest it's ever been in their whole life, in their whole career. They're completely exhausted all the time. It feels like they never get a break. So it's different. The trials today are different than what they used to be. It's not the same, because this is a symptom of trying to do this work in the middle of, on record, the largest global migration crisis in all of world history, as far as we can tell, besides maybe the Bering Strait. The nature of the current global migration crisis, largest in world history, means that it's just not going to be easy. There is no easy answer to how to do this work in a sustainable way, the way we would like it to be, right? That's just the hard reality we have to deal with. We're going to incur, for if you want to do the work, you're going to take some damage. You're going to get damaged by this stuff. It's really hard. Find a community that helps you stay strong in these times. Find human connections with people. Find a mentor who you trust, a spiritual director, pastor, therapist, whoever it is. Find them. But then even then, it's just not going to be easy. This is a very hard time. You're not going to be able to do this work without knowing personal suffering and inner turmoil yourself. That's just the hard reality. So I wanted to show, one of the reasons why this topic was on my mind tonight was I was going through a very powerful article that was shared to me through one of the best news sources that you can find. If you're interested in learning about the issues for Rohingya refugees who are still really stuck in Bangladesh. At least they had somewhere to go, but it sounds like the situation is becoming very grave when you just have that feeling of being stuck in the refugee camp year after year after year, and no one is offering you a better solution. That can lead to a point of a despairing way of living. And it's hard to hear about these stories, but you have to make your... And it's hard to hear about these stories, but it's harder for the people who have to live this reality every day. It's not just stories for them, this is their life. And when you can hear these news presented by people who are Rohingya refugees themselves, it's even better because you're learning from them. Okay, and that's always the ideal. And unfortunately, often due to education opportunity or language barriers, it's not always easy to get quality news sources that come from the people most affected. But when you can find it, it's great. And a friend of mine recently helped me make contact with a new friend of mine who's Rohingya. He's Rohingya. He helps. He lives in the camp himself in Bangladesh. He ends up becoming kind of a correspondent for different news sources around the world who want to get more of an accurate idea of what's going on in life there. So the whole article here is very powerful. I'll put a link in the description. Later I hope to make another video just specifically about that article because it's very powerful. But for now, I wanted to show just this one thing that just really got me personally when I saw it in the article. Okay, so here I want to show you parts of the article. There's one particular part I want to focus on for the purpose of this video. Like I said, I'd like to come back and do a separate video just about the whole article content itself, which is a huge eye-opener into the really difficult place the Rohingya are in. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's not their fault. That makes it even harder. But it is an amazing article. You have these great pictures that show you this is what real life looks like there. And you can see they've got these, it really brings to attention just the abuse that the Rohingya face. Even as they've already come to seek refuge in a new land, they're still facing abuse. And it's just really horrible, everything they have to face. For this video, I would like to focus on this quote that really got me. One psychiatrist for 3 million people. I want you to try to visualize that for a second. Like, what in the world does that mean? So I'm going to read this part of the article here. Muhammad Tahar, 39, has a full head of nightmares. Every evening, this Rohingya refugee struggles to get to sleep. A scene turns in a loop. His nephew, killed by soldiers, a bullet in the arm, another in the chest. The boy yelled before he died, "Uncle, help me!" Muhammad watched motionless, hidden behind trees. He's still watching, able to mimic the fatal shot as if he were pulling the trigger himself. Children are traumatized too. At night, they wake up swimming. "Daddy, the soldiers are coming." Muhammad reassures them without really believing it. "In Burma, we had no rights, and here it is the same," grinds the father, his teeth gnawed by battle. "There is no end to our suffering. I have the impression that we are floating on a river, and that there is never a shore." One psychiatrist for 3 million people. The distress of the camp's parades in the small office of Dr. Kafiluddin. The plump doctor is cramped in this concrete room, and even his shirt is choking him. Hidden behind a green curtain, the psychiatrist is on duty twice a month in a clinic of the Bangladeshi Hope Foundation in the heart of Kutupalong. In the camps, he's the only one to consult directly with the refugees. He's also the only psychiatrist in Cox's Bazar, the nearest town. The doctor is both a colossus and a grain of sand. One psychiatrist for 3 million people. And this picture here shows the psychiatrist working with a family. When we talk about these issues, obviously who we care about the most is always first the people most affected. The immigrants, the refugees, the asylum seekers, the displaced persons of the world, the internally displaced, they have first priority. Those are the people we care about the most. They're the ones who've been suffering the most. But the reality that we also have to address if we're going to have a sustainable global solution or a sustainable global resolution over time, patiently, we have to address the difficult reality of what it's like for people who are on the front lines doing the work. The immigration psychologist or therapist, the immigration lawyers, the immigration advocates, the organizers, the ministers, anyone who does any of this work, they know the feeling of the constant weight that keeps getting heavier every year, and it's not like normal compassion fatigue. Why? Because when you get into situations like this that are unique to the nature of largest global migration crisis in world history, and you get these situations where you have one psychiatrist for 3 million displaced persons, that's not a situation, no matter how much experience you have in doing therapy, being a caregiver, or whatever it is, no matter how much experience you have tons of experience dealing with hard stories and setting boundaries, and you already know what compassion fatigue is. None of that experience prepares you for something like this. It's just ridiculous. But this is the situation they have to deal with. It's not going away. And good people like him, they're going to do what they can. They know they can only do so much, but they're still going to do what they can. And you can see everything in here in the body language. Even if you have no knowledge of the cultural context of how Bengalis are or how Rohingya are, you could still see in this picture just the basic body language. You can see this is a therapist, a psychiatrist, who really knows solidarity. He really empathizes with people. He really feels their pain. He's open to that. And that's hard. It's hard to do that with 3 million people. You end up dying. You might not physically die, but I mean, something in you you're gonna lose something. This is very hard work, right? It's just very hard work. But in difficult times, in gravely difficult times in the world throughout history, that humanity has this incredible, innate, underlying, hidden ability when it gets tapped into to be able to survive and even overcome these difficult and dire circumstances. And that doesn't mean it's okay. It doesn't mean that it's okay that we're in this situation, largest migration crisis world history. But for people like the psychiatrist here, Kafiluddin, he's going to do what he can. He's going to keep doing what he can to address the local reality in his area of the global migration crisis, and he's just going to keep doing it every day because that's the kind of person he is. I've never met him before, but this photo says 1,000 words about the kind of person he is. For all of us, all around the world, the informal international network of advocates for immigrants and refugees around the globe, we know it, we feel it in our bones that we know it's hard, even though it's hard, and we all know it's hard, we're not giving up.